When I saw Zhao, he was walking aimlessly around the neighborhood. Zhao is one of the first owners of this community. His family moved from an old bungalow to a brand new 2-bedroom living room due to demolition. It's not easy to own such a flat in the big city of Beijing, but the new house didn't bring him good luck. First, his dependent mother died suddenly, and then he was kicked out of the house.
He wouldn't let me go home and sleep at night. I sleep here when it's not raining and in the shed when it rains.
Babysitter bullies him and won't let him come home.
According to the neighbor, the person who bullied Zhao was his nanny Wang Mo, who was over 50 years old, who now lives in Zhao's house with her adult son and remarried husband. While the owner of the house, Zhao can only roam outside.
What's the use of being tall and strong? He won't protect his rights.
Why does Zhao, who looks very strong, get bullied by his nanny? Neighbors say Zhao is a third-degree intellectual disability, and although he was in his 30s, he was mentally immature. When his mother was still alive, the neighbors had been secretly worried about him. Zhao's father died young. His mother's mind is not very flexible. They live in such an expensive house, but the ability to live independently is not enough. It is inevitable to be calculated.
Zhao and his mother lived in a small room. The nanny did not allow them to go to the bathroom. They had to use a bucket to go to the toilet and dump it into the trash can.
The woman in the picture is Wang, the nanny of Zhao's family. Now Zhao's 2-bedroom living room is her home, where she lives with her son. Her remarried husband, who works at a nearby property, also visits occasionally.
Zhao's mother offered to live with her, and I said I couldn't live with you.
Wang was hesitant at first, but finally agreed to the old woman's request, considering the situation of mother and son.
I said I would try my best to help you. I didn't want anything else.
Wang thinks what she's doing is a good thing, but her neighbors see a different story. On December 31, 2013, 1 year after living in the new house, Zhao's mother suddenly died of a heart attack. It took less than an hour from the onset of the disease to her death. Zhao believed that her mother's death was related to her long-term depression.
And my mother suffered from cerebral thrombosis, heart disease, and diabetes. Doctors said she should not be angry. My mother was angry with the nanny Wang.
Despite his low intelligence, Zhao knows he can't go on living like this. After his mother died, he asked Wang many times to move out as soon as possible, but she was refused repeatedly.
She beat me every day, abused me, and refused to let me go home,
Zhao said as he showed the scars on his body. He later found his second uncle with the help of neighbors and the residents' community.
No one can help him unless I help him.
Zhao's uncle is more than 60 years old and has retired. He took Zhao in and became his guardian. He told the reporter that due to various reasons, Zhao's mother and son and most of their relatives have broken off contact for many years. They did not expect that the mother and son lived so miserable.
The nanny had been planning to get Zhao's house from beginning to end.
Zhao's second uncle believes that the nanny has violated the law, so he, as Zhao's guardian and legal representative, filed a lawsuit with the court to ask the nanny Wang to return the property. The plaintiff's representative said that since the defendant was a nanny, she should have moved out of the house after her employee's death. So they argued for a monthly occupancy fee of 3,000 yuan since the beginning of 2014. So what is the defendant's purpose in doing this? Was he really doing it for someone else's house? The defendant's agent said that the fact was quite different from what the plaintiff said, that the defendant had not invaded their house. The name on the property deed was still Zhao, and Zhao had the key to the house. As a nanny, the defendants only used a small part of the house because of the promise made by Zhao's mother that the defendants were staying for a long time, and they had been waiting for this promise to be fulfilled. The agent, who was also somewhat emotional, said it was a heart-wrenching story. In the fall of 11 years ago, nanny Wang met Zhao's mother set up a store near home.
We sometimes have dinner together. She said it was just her and her son at home. Her husband had passed away long ago. I feel very sorry for her, because my husband died too, and it was not until remarriage that life gradually settled down.
Wang often gave Zhao some food, and two families gradually built up affection and trust. Soon, the bungalow that Zhao and her son live in will be torn down, and they will need to find somewhere else to live. So Zhao's mother said she wanted the two families to live together.
They were having a hard time then.
I said you should live with your relatives. She said no relatives could help.
When the mother and son moved in together, Zhao's mother hired Wang as a nanny, paying her 2,000 yuan a month for a total of 6,000 yuan for 3 months. But Wang said Zhao's mother did not pay any further payments after receiving the 6,000 yuan. It wasn't until 2012, when the government provided the new home, that Zhao's mother borrowed 100,000 yuan from the nanny, surnamed Wang.
The 100,000 yuan was used to cover the difference in price. In addition, I paid for the property management fee, heating fee and decoration fee.
Wang doesn't have 100,000 yuan as a nanny. Her husband borrows money from others and then lends it to Zhao's mother. After the new house was renovated, Zhao's mother asked Wang to continue working as a nanny, and the two families still live together.
I said I needed to work outside. Zhao's mother said you just help me cook and wash clothes. The monthly salary can be raised to 3,000 yuan. As long as the new house is sold, I can return 100,000 yuan and salary.
However, Zhao and her mother have neither sold the house nor paid the nanny, let alone paid the money back. The two sides negotiated and made a promise.
They promised that my family could stay in the small room until the money was paid back.
The defendant's agent said that in the past year, the defendant Wang paid various living expenses for Zhao and her son and took care of them. After Zhao's mother passed away, only the Wangs helped hold the farewell ceremony.
My husband and I helped Zhao's mother to wear the special clothes for her death. I feel very aggrieved about the current situation.
What also makes her feel aggrieved is Zhao's running away from home. Since the old woman's death, Zhao would leave the house and lie to the neighbors whenever they mentioned paying back the money.
He said I didn't take care of him, didn't feed him. I was too aggrieved.
If he didn't have enough to eat, would he be so fat now?
Nanny Wang's representative said the plaintiff had no evidence that defendant Wang drove him away and beat him. The nanny Wang promised to leave Zhao's home immediately, as long as Zhao repaid 100,000 yuan. The plaintiff's representative presented Zhao's mother's retirement certificate and salary slip, as well as Zhao's disability certificate and government subsidy certificate, which showed that the mother and son earned less than 3,000 yuan a month. Zhao's second uncle also said that the plaintiff's family could not afford to hire the nanny.
How can a disabled person without a job spend 2,000 yuan to hire a nanny and then raise it to 3,000 yuan? The nanny surnamed Wang is lying.
Zhao's second uncle presented the demolition agreement of that year. This agreement shows that Zhao and her son not only shared a house but also received more than 100,000 yuan in economic compensation.
This money is enough to cover the difference in the new house. Why did she borrow 100,000 yuan from the nanny?
The plaintiff's representative argued that not only did the so-called agreed possession not exist, but that the defendant had resorted to outrageous measures to take possession of the house. Zhao and his mother were tied up and beaten, shut in a small room and gagged.
The wounds on his head and hands were the evidence, and one of his teeth was knocked out.
Was the police called?
If he were a normal person, he would not have been subjected to violence. If his mother were a normal person, she would not have given birth to a son with a disability certificate. They don't know how to call the police.
So is that really the case? The defendant's agent proceeded the water card, the electricity card, the gas card, and the bill of payment and the two witness statements, testifying that the defendant had been nanny at the plaintiff's house and had borne most of the living expenses. The agent also produced a documentary proof of the existence of a long relationship between the defendant and the plaintiff. that Zhao and his mother had borrowed 100,000 yuan from the defendant's husband, and that the defendant was the nanny hired by Zhao's mother while she was alive, with Zhao's signature and handprint in the lower right corner.
Was it a cash transaction?
Yes.
Wang told the reporter that a big thing happened in the house where she lived in early 2016.
His mother asked me to keep the house purchase contract and the IOU of 100,000 yuan in cash, as well as their household registration books were all put in that cabinet. I don't know why they suddenly disappeared.
Wang was very nervous at that time. Both his family and Zhao said they didn't see it. Only when the police came to the scene after calling the police did Zhao admit that he had taken these materials away and handed them to the neighborhood community.
Except for the IOU, all the other documents have been found.
Then nanny Wang took Zhao to a lawyer, the defendant's proxy. The defendant's representative presented the recording in court. He said the recording can prove not only that Zhao wrote the note voluntarily, but also that Zhao's true intention to take the original note.
I asked him whether he borrowed 100,000 yuan from nanny Wang S. written on the IOU. He said yes. I said, why did you take the IOU? He didn't answer and offered to replace it. The whole thing was recorded.
Zhao's attorney said that Zhao was different from ordinary people and that he had been threatened by his nanny that day.
She said she would break my legs if I didn't write the IOU. She always threatened me. I had no choice but to sign it.
Zhao can't read. This kind of IOU is invalid, and they didn't give.
The nanny's behavior made Zhao's second uncle very angry. He thought Zhao used all kinds of means to get the house.
My sister passed away, and I can't tell the truth, no matter how low their intelligence is. Zhao and his son will not agree to give the house away.
The court held that Zhao, the plaintiff, had full possession and use of the house, and the evidence submitted by the defendant is all about a loan of 100,000 yuan. And cannot prove that the two parties have reached an agreement on the disposal of the house because of the loan of 100,000 yuan. The court upheld the plaintiff's claim for the return of the house and sentenced the defendant to 50 days. The house, water, electricity, and gas cards will be returned to the plaintiff, and other claims of the plaintiff will be rejected.